As the world searches the skies for UFO answers, an ancient sacred text uncovers something deeply unsettling. The visitors have not just arrived, they never left, and the evidence is hidden among the sacred mountains of Ethiopia. What most people ignore is that the Bible we know today is merely a trimmed version of something far older and more complex. Another Bible, preserved for millennia by Ethiopian monks, holds books censored by the rest of the world. Within those forbidden pages lies a chilling truth about humanity's hidden origins that challenges our understanding. The texts tell of sky-dwelling beings, forbidden technology, and a prophecy of their unavoidable return. What is most unsettling is that every detail aligns with modern testimonies about encounters with non-human entities. What if the aliens currently observing our planet were actually the watchers described by the prophet Enoch in ancient texts? To understand this mystery, we must travel to the heart of Africa, where Christianity has never forgotten its dark roots. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserves a sacred canon distinct from that used in Rome, Constantinople, or Geneva. While the West accepts 66 books as canonical, the Ethiopians venerate 81 pure sacred writings as holy. Among those additional texts is the most disturbing of all, the Book of Enoch, written before the Great Flood occurred. For 1,500 years, this manuscript completely disappeared from European libraries, deemed too dangerous. However, in the remote mountains of Axum, monks copied it in the Ge'ez language faithfully from generation to generation. The inevitable question is why Rome chose to expel this text from the official canon while Ethiopia guarded it jealously. The answer may lie in what the book reveals about the forbidden origins of primitive human civilization and its development. Enoch was a unique prophet, the great-grandfather of Noah, who claimed to have seen the heavenly realms. According to the text, he was led through the seven heavens and allowed to witness the judgment against the Watchers. These beings, called egregoroi in Greek, descended upon Mount Hermon during the distant reign of King Jared. They numbered 200 in total, led by a commander named Semjaza, and they solemnly swore to defy divine laws. Their choice to descend was deliberate, armed with forbidden knowledge intended for humanity. And here arises the first unsettling question that directly connects this text with the modern extraterrestrial phenomenon. Why would celestial beings need to descend physically if they are described as pure, immaterial spirits? The Ethiopian text's answer is astonishing, as it describes entities with bodies, free will, and reproductive capabilities. We are not talking about abstract angels with wings, but tangible beings comparable to crew members from another place. And this is precisely the image that modern witnesses describe when recounting their encounters with non-human visitors. The Ethiopians never interpreted these watchers as mere fallen angels, but as active, rebellious observers of humanity. The word watcher literally means someone who observes without sleeping, someone tasked with monitoring the earth. Isn't this the very same word that ufologists use today to describe the intelligences behind the UFO phenomenon? The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in 1947, confirmed the ancient existence of Enoch and his writings. Fragments of the book appeared alongside the Essene texts, demonstrating that it was considered ancient sacred scripture. However, the Christian councils of the 4th century decided to eliminate it from the official Western canon forever. The official reason was that it contained elements too dangerous for the average believer to read and comprehend. But the Ethiopian monks defied that order and continued to transmit it as inspired word from the eternal God himself. Thanks to them, the knowledge about the Watchers survived the planned oblivion imposed by the great world churches. In the 18th century, Scottish explorer James Bruce brought the first complete Ethiopian manuscripts to Europe. When European scholars read its pages, they understood why Rome had decided to bury this ancient text so deeply. The Book of Enoch not only confirms the existence of the Nephilim, but also details their precise technological origins. It describes instruments of war, metalworking, and astronomical knowledge transmitted by the celestial watchers themselves. We are faced with the oldest known testimony about an external intervention in the development of early humanity. The essential question is why only Ethiopia preserved this knowledge, while the rest of the world gradually lost it. Some researchers believe the answer is linked to the Ark of the Covenant, supposedly hidden in those ancient lands. Others argue that the ancient Ethiopian priests deliberately preserved the uncomfortable truths of the lost Eden. Whatever the reason, the result is undeniable. There exists a parallel canon that rewrites the entire history of humanity. And in that canon, the celestial visitors are not symbolic, but real, present, and eternally vigilant over all of us. Who were these beings called Watchers that descended on Mount Hermon thousands of years ago, exactly as described? The text of Enoch describes them with a disturbing precision that challenges the known traditional religious categories. They are not portrayed as pure spiritual entities, but as bearers of clear physical technologies and knowledge. Their leader, Semjaza, taught men the art of spells and the observation of the roots of medicinal plants for healing. Azazel, another of their commanders, revealed the making of swords, shields, and armor, as well as the working of metals. But he also taught something even more disturbing: the use of cosmetics, eye dyes, and carved precious stones. Another watcher named Barakiel instructed ancient humanity in astrology and the study of distant stars in the cosmos. Kokabel revealed the secrets of the constellations, while Sariel taught the lunar cycles with astonishing accuracy. How is it possible that a text written thousands of years ago could describe advanced scientific knowledge in such detail? The most coherent answer implies the original source experienced something real, not just a fleeting mystical vision. The ancients had no conceptual framework to understand spaceships or advanced technology from distant civilizations. They turned to the only vocabulary they had, the religious and symbolic language of their ancient past. When they described fiery chariots descending from the sky, what exactly were their astonished eyes truly witnessing? When they spoke of bright clouds settling on the mountains, wouldn't they recall the modern UAP sightings of today? Ezekiel spoke of wheels within wheels, four-faced beams, and a metallic brightness that defies explanation. Contemporary ufologists find a remarkable parallel between those descriptions and the current documented reports. Eric von Däniken proposed in 1968 that the ancient gods were real ancestral astronauts visiting Earth. His thesis was ridiculed for decades by the official academy, but the Ethiopian texts seem to vindicate his claims clearly. The Book of Enoch mentions rotating crystals, fiery swords, and vehicles that traverse the skies at impossible speeds. These are not generic symbols. They are specific descriptions that recur in various parallel passages throughout the text. Moreover, the Watchers are always associated with high altitudes, sacred mountains, and sudden descents from the sky. Mount Hermon, their landing point, rises over 2,800 meters and has long been regarded as a sacred site. The ancient Canaanites called it the Mountain of the Gods, a name that endured for millennia without clear explanation. Today, we know that this peak harbors strange archaeological remains and documented electromagnetic anomalies by scientists. Independent researchers have recorded recurring luminous phenomena over Hermon in recent decades, raising many questions. Is it coincidence, or are we seeing a lasting connection between our world and an ancient, intelligent dimension? The Watchers did not descend randomly. They chose this strategically significant cosmic axis to impart their knowledge. The knowledge they transmitted to humans was not common information, but advanced technology for their primitive era. Metalworking, chemistry, astronomy, and writing appeared almost simultaneously in separate cultures across the globe. Archaeologists call this phenomenon the Neolithic Revolution, but they have never truly explained its rapid origin. Is it a coincidence that isolated civilizations developed agriculture, writing, and metallurgy almost at the same time? Or did a group of external instructors systematically and perfectly organize the transmission of that knowledge? The Ethiopian text answers with astonishing clarity. 200 masters descended and taught all that was forbidden to man. And in doing so, they forever altered the natural course of human evolution, contaminating our final collective destiny. Civilization as we know it did not begin with the ingenuity of man, but with the silent intervention of others from beyond. This once heretical idea resurfaces today in the words of renowned scientists, physicists, and archaeologists. Avi Loeb, a Harvard professor, publicly defends the hypothesis of interstellar visitors already present here on Earth. The Pentagon has officially confirmed the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena of unknown origin in our skies. While the media debates their reality, Ethiopians stay silent about what they have always known to be true. The Watchers were never myths or pious legends. They were real entities documented by ancient direct witnesses. But the descent of the Watchers did not end with the simple transmission of technical knowledge to primitive men. A far graver event occurred in those mountains, which the Book of Enoch refers to as the great universal human corruption. The Watchers saw the daughters of men, desired them, and took wives from mortals, leading to dire consequences. From that impossible union were born hybrid beings, creatures that the Bible technically calls the fierce Nephilim. The word Nephilim literally means fallen ones, although it can also be translated as giants or powerful destroyers. Genesis mentions them briefly, but the Ethiopian text describes their nature with disturbing and almost scientific detail. These hybrids reached colossal heights and displayed evident superhuman physical and intellectual capabilities. Their growth accelerated, their hunger was insatiable, and their aggression surpassed any known creature of that time. Soon, they began to devour everything they found: crops, domestic animals, and ultimately even living humans. The earth cried out to the heavens for the spilled blood and the rampant biological corruption all around. But why would a reproductive crossing between different species produce such unstable and destructive beings without control? Here enters one of the most impressive revelations of the Book of Enoch, directly linked to modern genetics today. The text suggests that the Watchers did not limit themselves to copulating with women like uncontrolled and wild animals. They also manipulated biological material, deliberately altering the original genetic information of created humanity. They taught women the use of potions, induced abortions, and the mixing of blood between different human races. These details feel like an ancient echo of genetic engineering practices we now grasp in the 21st century. Did the authors of the Book of Enoch know what DNA was thousands of years before its recent modern discovery? In 1973, physicist Francis Crick, co-discoverer of DNA, proposed the theory of directed panspermia from beyond Earth. According to that theory, life on Earth was deliberately seeded by advanced and ancient extraterrestrial civilizations. The hypothesis was labeled pseudoscientific, but the Ethiopian texts described the same thing thousands of years ago. The Nephilim were not just offspring of physical unions, but the result of intentional and calculated manipulation. Their existence shattered the original order, blending the terrestrial and celestial in a forbidden way. That is why the universal flood was presented in ancient texts as an absolutely necessary genetic purification. God was not only punishing the moral sin of man, but also erasing a biological experiment that was spiraling out of control. But here arises the truly unsettling question that few theologians dare to openly formulate in public today. If God destroyed the Nephilim with the flood, why did Moses' spies find them alive in Canaan afterward? The Book of Numbers describes the Anakim, giants descended from the Nephilim, living after the universal flood. Goliath, David's famed foe, stood about 3 meters tall, as noted in the official Hebrew chronicles. Og, king of Bashan, slept on an iron bed 4 meters long, as explicitly described in Deuteronomy. How is it possible that giants reappeared if they were supposedly exterminated by the universal waters of the flood? The answer from the Book of Enoch is chilling and reveals a second wave of celestial descents after the flood. After the flood, another group of entities would have descended to repeat the forbidden genetic experiment once again. This time, the Watchers acted with greater discretion, avoiding to display their presence before the massive humanity. The giants resurfaced in specific lineages linked to tribes that practiced cults to ancient pagan gods. What if that clandestine activity has never ceased, continuing to this day under modern and invisible forms? Modern testimonies of abductions describe reproductive experiments carried out by grey entities from beyond. Women report having been impregnated and returned with pregnancies that mysteriously disappear shortly after. Hybridologists like David Jacobs argue that there is a silent program of human hybridization currently underway right now. Their testimonies are ridiculed by academia, but they coincide with astonishing precision with the ancient Hebrew texts. Are we witnessing the modern continuation of the project initiated by the Watchers on the ancient Mount Hermon of Israel? The parallelism is too precise to be coincidence, too coherent to be mere recent or modern popular invention. The Watchers wanted to create a hybrid race, half human, half celestial, capable of inhabiting our physical dimension. The modern visitors seem to pursue the same goal, using the same methods perfected by advanced technology. If the theory holds, we are seeing the final phase of a plan that started millennia ago in total cosmic darkness. The question is no longer whether aliens exist, but what their true identity and hidden purpose on Earth is today. The Book of Enoch does not conclude with the Watchers' condemnation or the final punishment of their human descendants. It also contains a series of prophecies about the last days, dated with astonishing and disturbing precision. Enoch describes how, before the final judgment, the chained spirits will be released upon humanity once again, completely. The Watchers were cast into Tartarus, an underground prison described as a valley of unquenchable and dark fire. There they would remain bound for 70 generations, waiting for the exact moment of the divine eternal judgment. But the text warns of something disturbing, for their teachings, once released, could never be retracted again. The celestial Pandora's box had been opened, and the forbidden knowledge remained circulating among mortal men. The 70 generations since Enoch, calculated according to biblical genealogies, lead approximately to our current time. Are we living in the prophesied period when the Watchers will awaken from their long subterranean imprisonment? The idea is destabilizing, but recent events seem to confirm that unsettling possibility today. In 2017, the New York Times revealed the existence of secret Pentagon programs regarding non-human UFOs. In 2023, military officials testified under oath before Congress about real, non-human technologies. David Grush claimed that the US government possesses verified biological remains of non-terrestrial pilots. Are we witnessing the gradual disclosure of what ancient scriptures announced as the inevitable final return? The connection between the underground prisons of Tartarus and modern secret bases is disturbingly suggestive. Places like Dulce in New Mexico or Area 51 are mentioned as points of constant anomalous activity. Witnesses speak of facilities where living entities are kept that collaborate with secret government agencies today. Are the Watchers perhaps released, operating now under agreements with human governments that accept their silent presence? The hypothesis feels like science fiction, yet it aligns with what the prophet Enoch described thousands of years ago. The Ethiopian text warns that the days before judgment will be marked by great spiritual confusion all around. Men will no longer tell apart angels from demons, truth from lies, or reality from deliberate manipulation. A fog of deception will cover the world, and many will be seduced by the spirits of the ancient fallen celestial beings. Isn't this the spiritual and cultural atmosphere that defines the contemporary world of the 21st century? Confusion about human identity, breaking of natural boundaries, and obsessive fascination with the non-human and the strange. Everything seems to fit into the prophetic picture that the Ethiopian monks preserved for millennia in silent custody. But there is one more unsettling detail related to the exact moment of the Watcher's definitive return today. The Book of Enoch mentions specific signs in the heavens, stars that deviate from their known natural course. It speaks of luminaries that will stop their cycles, disrupting the cosmic order established by the Eternal. Modern astronomers have documented anomalies in Earth's rotation, magnetic fluctuations, and strange cosmic events. Are these just coincidences, or the slow fulfillment of a prophecy written millennia ago in the ancient Ethiopian mountains? The Watchers return, but not necessarily as visible entities to the naked eye of the ordinary human. Their return could manifest through more subtle channels: technology, altered spirituality, and mental manipulation. Artificial intelligence, transhumanism, and genetic experiments could be part of their hidden agenda. What began on Mount Hermon with 200 celestial rebels could now culminate with billions affected across the globe. And the Ethiopians, far from the lights of modern civilization, hold the prophetic map that few wish to read today. Their monks recite the Book of Enoch in Jez, exactly as their ancestors did 1,000 years ago. Meanwhile, Western nations are rediscovering the text with growing astonishment and poorly concealed fear outside. The truth, hidden for centuries, begins to emerge, pressured by events that are impossible to ignore completely. And the most disturbing question hangs in the dense air of our historical time, so loaded with dark and restless omens. Are we culturally, spiritually, and scientifically prepared to face the physical return of the Watchers today? There exists an even more disturbing theory that connects the ancient Nephilim with the modern aliens we know. According to certain rabbinic traditions, when the giants died physically, their spirits did not rest in eternal peace. They were hybrids between the celestial and the terrestrial, so their souls had no natural place to return at the end. They remained suspended between dimensions, doomed to wander the earth, seeking bodies to reincarnate into once more. These disembodied spirits are called, in Hebrew texts, shedim, demons, or spirits of the ancient fallen ones. What if the beings we now call extraterrestrials were precisely those wandering spirits in search of a new physical form? The hypothesis explains several paradoxes of the UFO phenomenon that official science has yet to resolve. Why do the visitors obsess over human reproduction and the extraction of female genetic material? Why do they show such interest in the human psyche, manipulating memories and altering states of consciousness continuously? Why does their behavior reveal a spiritual hostility rather than a mere detached scientific curiosity? The traditional Christian response surprisingly aligns with the most recent contemporary testimonies today. The aliens would not be visitors from another galaxy, but fallen entities seeking bodies to incarnate once again. They need human DNA combined with their rebellious essence to create physical containers to inhabit on Earth. That is why the phenomenon of abductions concentrates on reproductive processes and on embryos not yet born. Researchers like Joseph Jordan have documented cases where invoking the name of Jesus Christ halts the experience. Abductions cease when the victim resorts to specific prayers, something impossible if they were real physical beings. This suggests that we are facing a spiritual reality disguised as advanced and complex extraterrestrial technology. The veil between dimensions is fraying, and ancient entities are taking advantage of the cracks to manifest here again. The New Age culture, with its fascination for channeling and guiding entities, could be part of this final massive deception. Famous mediums describe contacts with ascended masters who promise enlightenment but demand total spiritual submission. Isn't this exactly the pattern described by Enoch when the Watchers seduced humanity with secret knowledge? The promise is always the same: power, wisdom, and transcendence in exchange for abandoning the laws established by God. The ancient Gnostics called these beings Archons, invisible rulers of the world who enslave human souls. Modern contactees call them Space Brothers, but their message and agenda seem identically coordinated. The difference between a fallen angel from the Book of Enoch and a modern alien seems to be merely superficial terminology. Both descend from the sky, offer forbidden knowledge, and biologically manipulate humanity without permission. Both are connected with high altitudes, strange lights, and documented unnatural electromagnetic phenomena. Both generate in their victims the same combination of fascination, terror, and involuntary psychological servitude. Are we witnessing the exact fulfillment of the prophecies that the Ethiopian Church preserved for 2,000 years? The signs multiply, the apparitions intensify, and the official silence begins to break slowly at last. Something is moving in the skies and in the underground depths that modern science is just beginning to register today. Meanwhile, the Ethiopian monks continue reciting the verses of Enoch, as they did 1,400 years ago. They know what others debate. The Watchers were never a metaphor. They were always real and tangible. The question isn't if they'll return, but if we'll recognize them when they finally appear before our open eyes. Perhaps they are already here, watching from the shadows, waiting for the precise moment to reveal themselves to the world. What began as a forgotten text in the Ethiopian mountains has become an unsettling and powerful prophetic key. A key that opens dimensional doors, connects the ancient with the contemporary, and challenges the Western worldview. Official science remains complicit in silence. Governments hide information, and churches avoid the sensitive topic. But the truth, although buried for centuries by human interests, always finds a way to emerge in the end. The Book of Enoch was censored, ridiculed, and marginalized by established powers for nearly 2,000 years. And yet, it returns to the center of global debate precisely when the UFO phenomenon reaches its peak expression today. Is this historical coincidence or hidden providence behind the seemingly chaotic movements of our tumultuous era? Faith and science, separated for centuries by mutual distrust, seem to converge now at a critical final point. Both point to non-human intelligences that have interacted with our species since the dawn of remote civilizational times. The names may change, the languages vary, but the phenomenon remains substantially identical to the ancient original. Watchers, Nephilim, ancient gods, fallen angels, demons, or aliens are distinct names for the same enigma. Different labels for a unique reality that humanity has been trying to comprehend for millennia, without fully succeeding. Perhaps the time has come to accept that our history is much stranger than any imaginable fiction today. Perhaps the ancients were not naive or superstitious, but direct witnesses to realities we lost long ago. And perhaps, at this very historical moment, that hidden reality is beginning to manifest again with brutal force. The Ethiopians never doubted, the ancient rabbis knew, the Gnostics taught it in their most secret circles. Only modern rationalism insisted on denying it, but contemporary facts are overflowing that official denial. The world is preparing, consciously or unconsciously, for a definitive encounter with those we call visitors. When that encounter occurs, the ancient texts will be the only useful compass to understand what is truly happening. You, who have reached this point in the narrative, face a silent but profoundly important decision. Will you accept the comfortable narrative that denies all external intervention in human history since ancient times? Or will you open your eyes to the possibility that the Watchers never left and are preparing for their final revelation now? The choice, as always in the great mysteries of the cosmos, lies exclusively in your hands and in your personal conscience. Subscribe to the channel to discover the forbidden truths that have been buried by the powers for centuries.